Hello and welcome to the Odds Checker betting show. I'm your host, George Elek, and this week we'll be looking ahead, hopefully, to some racing at Cheltenham for Trials Day on Saturday, and also to the racing at Doncaster as well, which I think we can be pretty sure will be going ahead. Got two expert guests here this week. Andy Holding is taking a well-deserved break, but his namesake, Andrew Thornton, who knows much more about sitting on a horse, if not betting on them, joins us instead. Andrew, very good to have you here again. How's your week been? Probably quite similar to last week, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's been a bit of homeschooling. I've been enjoying that, even if Charlie hasn't. But look, fingers crossed for the weekend, because I just hope Cheltenham gets to go ahead. And Doncaster, well, whets the appetite with Shishkin stretching his legs up there and trying to... well, he'd have been unbeaten, wouldn't he, if he hadn't fallen in his novice hurdle there at Newbury last season. So it's exciting.
It is exciting, and I'm looking forward to your career as a teacher once all this is over. It sounds exciting as well, Andrew. And then we can go live to our Cheltenham correspondent, Ed Quigley. Ed, you live near the course. We mention that every time. It's normally not particularly relevant, but this time it definitely is, because we are unsure as to whether or not Cheltenham will be going ahead due to concerns with the ground. What's the weather been like, and what are you hearing locally?
Yeah, indeed. It's clear blue skies here at the moment. It's absolutely lovely. But however, it needs to be, because last night when I was lying in bed, I thought my ceiling was going to come in. An absolutely ridiculous amount of rain for about a 4-hour period. Absolutely hammered down. There was standing water appearing on the road outside in such a short space of time. So, yeah, inspecting 2 p.m. Friday, parts of the course are waterlogged. At the moment, the officials are saying it would be raceable. They'd have to admit the third last, perhaps the last fence. I might have got that wrong, round the wrong way, but they would have to admit a couple of fences, but they would be able to get the meeting on. However, the problem is what is arriving Friday. There's a whole band of rain coming in Friday, potential snow early Saturday morning as well. So I'm a glass kind of 3/4 full type of person, as you know, George. But if the weather holds true, I'd say it's odds on it gets cooled off, to be honest with you. But you never know. If they get the low end of the rain forecast, it may just sneak through. But one thing's for sure, it will be very, very testing. It will be in the kind of Chepstow mould of heavy ground, shall we say.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed it does go ahead, even if that is the case. And for that reason, rather than going through the races in time order, what we're going to do is we're going to start with Doncaster, because then if by the time people are watching this or listening to this, Cheltenham is off, you don't have to spend a while scrubbing through all the off races, even if we have to preview them anyway. So we're going to start with Doncaster. Before we do get going, as ever, going to direct listeners and viewers in the direction of the Odds Checker app. Download the app. There you can get the very best prices. So you're making sure you're not backing 2-1 shots at 13-8. You can get the very best place terms. So you get your 5 places rather than your 4 if they're available. The best bookie offers as well, and the very best tipsters. Andy will be back in action this weekend, I'm led to believe. So definitely make sure you do check the Odds Checker app for the first place to get those. We're going to be previewing the races that will be shown live on ITV if racing goes ahead. So we're going to start at Doncaster with a 2:05, then the 2:40, the 3:15, and then over to Cheltenham where we've got the 1:50, 2:25, 3 o'clock, and 3:35, ending with the Cleve Hurdle. So to Donny then, and as I said, the first race we're going to cover is the Mares' Hurdle, the 2:05, where Floressa is the 2-1 favourite ahead of Marie's Rock at 5-2, 11-4 Miranda. Rainer's World 10-1, Irish Row 12-1, Sopat 50-1. Ed, coming to you first for the opener, or at least the opener on ITV at Donny.
Yeah, indeed. And not a lot to separate these mares on official figures, is there? At least the big three, if you like. Floressa and Miranda officially rated 143 and Marie's Rock rated 141. So, again, interested Nico de Boinville's on Floressa. I thought perhaps you would have gone with Marie's Rock, who showed so much potential last season. Of course, was amongst one of the favourites at the Cheltenham Festival before she picked up a knock, missed the meeting, and then on her comeback, it's fair to say she disappointed when setting off 2-1 favourite at Newbury back in November, but she was far too lit up, far too keen, and was beaten around 12 lengths behind Floressa on that occasion. But all the vibes in the aftermath were she would obviously come on a bundle for that. And put it this way, I think there won't be 12 lengths between Floressa and Marie's Rock on this occasion. I think it'd be much, much closer. Which way it falls, I'm not quite sure. And I think the ground will play a part. If the ground got pretty soft, I think that will go towards Marie's Rock. I always thought Floresa's quite a smooth moving type. We saw in the mud at Taunton last year how Marie's Rock just powered through it and she seemed to enjoy it. So I'm going to be a little bit kind of splinters on my backside for this race because I honestly don't. I think official figures suggest, and the way these fillies are kind of the form line suggest, I don't think there's a great deal between them. And I think Miranda's a pretty useful mare for the informed Paul Nicholls team too. So yeah, I'm tempted to the Nicky Henderson second string, but no strong views in the 205.
Yeah, not much of a second string really when you look at the prices there as well. But on the day we'll see where we end up. But Andrew, it looks like a pretty trappy affair, this, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm worried about Marie's Rock because I know Nico thought quite a lot of her when obviously in the novice career, but the vibes are, I think, that she just hasn't quite sparkled. Well, you saw what happened first time out, and for a mare, I know she was a little keen as a novice, but you'd be slightly worried she's maybe just gone the wrong way, as in got very, very keen. And one thing's for certain, if she's like that at Doncaster with the ground bin, Weatherby's off today. It's only half an hour from Donny. They will have had some rain last night. I live 20 minutes north of Weatherby, and I'd say we had an inch. Weatherby said they had 15 mil. Donny will have had the fair share, and there's more forecast for Saturday. They will have opened up the ground as well because they are racing Friday as well. So it'll be taxing. For me, Floresa's form beating a neck to Lady Buttons is she's solid. She wants further. Nicky Henderson wants to run over 2.5. Can't find the right races for her because she's a listed fairly, but you do probably want a mare that gets that little bit further when the ground is testing. And the fact that Nico's gone for her certainly ticks the boxes for me. And at least you know that she handles the track. Donny's yes, it's left-handed, but some horses just don't like it. It gets very loose. It's a gravelly track. It gets quite loose, but Floresa handles it. She wasn't beaten far in it last year. She's a rock-solid choice. I think Marie's Rock, she'll either be winning or she'll be blown out. So I know there's only 6 runners, but you might be looking for something. Miranda was disappointed up at Musselburgh last time out. I'd be thinking of something like a Rainer's World of Phil Kirby's. If you're an each-way punter and you want to play something at that for the first 2 places, Rainer's World would be the one I'd be having a look at.
Rainer's World then 9-1, best price at the moment with Paddy Power and Betfair Sportsbook. Worth pointing out, we're recording this just shy of midday on Thursday, so final decks only came in pretty recently, so these markets are updating as we go. On then to the second race that we're going to be previewing at Doncaster, the 240, the Albert Bartlett River Don Novices Hurdle, where Emir Sakri is the 4-1 favourite ahead of Flash Colon at 5-1, Ashtown Lad 6-1, Oscar Honey B and Bob Hope or No Hope both 8-1, Pat's Fancy 9-1, 11-1 bar. Ed, come back to you here first and foremost. Anything catching your eye at those prices?
Yeah, absolutely. Pat's Fancy, a really, really interesting one for the Rebecca Curtis team. We know she's got a bit of a track record with this type, obviously with Liz Nagar-Oscar and that Fisher's Cross a few seasons ago. And this horse is following a similar type of route to a couple of those horses in the sense they ran in the same Foss Last Maiden back in November and then went to the Cheltenham Albert Bartlett trial in December, which is the Liz Nagar-Oscar route, if you like. And it was a little bit of a messy race, the Cheltenham one in December. I think they omitted the last flight, didn't they? And it was almost a flat race for the final half a mile. However, this horse has plenty of stamina. Its pedigree galloped all the way to the line and came up the Cheltenham Hill and just looks your out and out stayer, if you like, and which is pretty much going to be the name of the game over 3 miles on Town Moor on this ground. I've actually backed Pat's Fancy for the Albert Bartlett itself. At the festival, I just think looks the proper type who will love a punch up, love a war, and won't have a problem with soft ground. And I just thought it's really interesting. Rebecca Curtis, as soon as she gets a good stare on her hands, you have to look what races they get put in. And if she's taken a kind of tried and tested route, which she's known has worked with previous other kind of flag bearers, if you like, in the stable. So yeah, Pat's Fancy for me at a double figure price. So this horse has got plenty of stamina in the locker, which will essentially be I think the class angle to some extent can get a little bit thrown out the window over very deep ground and 3 miles, and you just want something that's going to gallop on. And I think Pat's Fancy could be galloping on when others have cried enough.
Pat's Fancy 50-1 for the Albert Bartlett in March. I mean, Ed, what kind of a performance would you be looking for? I mean, do you think Pat's Fancy has to go win this in order to justify your anti-post selection, or do you think just a good run? I mean, we know the Albert Bartlett favours horses that have had tough tests and have come through them.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I'd like to see Pat's Fancy win it, or at least go down fighting in the closing stages. But I just think, I just think this race looks absolutely tailor-made for the horse, and I just thought it was really interesting the route Rebecca Curtis has taken, as given that she's almost mapped this one out the same as Liz Nagaroska, and I just think this horse ticks every box. So yeah, I think this horse has got every chance of winning. I actually think is overpriced, and again, on official figures, is 133 is right up there with the best of them in this, and you could make an argument it should be a lot shorter. So Pat's Fancy for me, I think is a cracking each way bet at 10-1. I'll be disappointed if it was out of 3, and I'll be hoping that it goes and wins.
9-1 best price at the moment with Unibet, but we'll see as other bookies are coming out with their prices. So Pat's Fancy is Ed's fancy. What's Andrew's fancy?
Yeah, I don't think there's, on ratings, and Ed will know this, I think there's only £5 officially between 12 of the 13 here. And I think it's priced up purely and simply on the fact of Nicky Henderson and Paul Nicholls been, champion trainers between them in the last 10 years. So I think the market is lopsided. I'm with Bob Hope and No Hope. Bob Hope and No Hope for Kim Bailey. Dave Baswell, they're putting all before them. Look what happened last weekend. First flight. Absolutely. That for me, that was the ride. That is my ride of the year already. Because, he took the bull by the horns, and Bassi is just riding with so much confidence at the moment. And that's why I like Bob Hope or No Hope, because what's going to happen. This horse is going to be bounced out. Didn't win too far at Doncaster last time out, but was value for probably a lot further. Didn't do a stroke in front. And I just feel this horse is from the Corbière family. So there is lots of staying in the pedigree. And I like a horse who has got track form as well at Donny. I mentioned it in the previous race. They're a stayer, won a point on soft ground. And I don't think it's a vintage renewal of this race. But one thing it is exceptionally competitive. So from that perspective, I'm a little bit like Ed. I'm looking for a bit of an each way angle into the race, and I thought this one fit the brief. And it's the ground conditions. Yes, they're calling them good to soft in place at the moment. It's going to be worse than that come Saturday. So as I say, very open contest. But I thought a yard that's just been in great form all year.
Bob Hope or No Hope there for Andrew. Hopefully some hope. 8-1 best price pretty much across the board there. Unibet, Betfair Sportsbook, Hills and Paddy Power certainly stayed on well last time at Doncaster, suggesting that the extra stamina test shouldn't be too much of an issue. We'll move on then to the third and final race we'll be previewing at Doncaster, which is the 3:15. Andrew, coming straight back to you there. Cap de Nord is the 5-2 favourite. Canelo 5-1. 13-2, 1 for the team. I Write and Musical Slave 9-1, 12-1 bar. Hills go 4 places at the moment. I'm sure others will follow. 13 runners. Let's start with the favourite here, Cap de Nord. Fair favourite at 5-2.
Well, hey, this is probably the way the race is framed gets in well here. Royal Pigalle, the way it's bolted up at Haydock.
Unbelievable.
He's obviously a worthy favourite in that respect. I think the ground's going to be a lot slower than Kempton, mind. That would be my slight worry. Looking through his form on soft ground, it's, as I say, the Kempton ground last time I think was nearer good to soft than soft. I'm thinking Donny's going to be worse than that by Saturday. And that would be my little concern. And for me, short enough in the market and worth taking on. Canelo was a tough winner last time out up at Wetherby. I thought good performance from him. But the one here for me is one for the team. Looks an improving novice for Nick Williams. Only had 3 starts over fences. And the last 2 were the penultimate one was in the grade 2. The last time out was in the grade 1 behind Shan Blue at Kempton. And if the Cat Fits finished 3rd in that, this horse was only 2 lengths behind. I thought if the Cat Fitz ran a blinder behind Yala Renki at the weights the other day, last week down at Taunton, I just thought that off a marker 141, 10 stone 11 as well, mid-range, hasn't got too much weight on his back. And Nick Williams, he's pretty good at getting these novices in these kind of races. And from an each-way perspective, that's the horse I was siding with. Thought I Right was interesting. You know, obviously he had a pipe opener at Newcastle last time. An interesting horse for the Harriet Graham, if not what you might think from a betting perspective, a sexy horse. So one horse that is probably very, very tough and consistent and doesn't deserve to be the price he is as well.
So one for the team there for Andrew is his selection, with a positive word for I Right as well, who is 9-1 with William Hill. Ed, over to you.
Yeah, I echo a lot of Andrew's sentiment there. I think perhaps the favourite's a little bit short in the market now. I actually think the second one in here, Canelo, looks rock solid. Won it Weatherby in Royal America in December and won it in nice style. Jumped and travelled beautifully. He really did. It was the only horse still on the bridle coming to 2 out. And once he hit the front, didn't find a great deal. But listen, Alan King after didn't seem at all surprised by that at all. He says a horse who almost needs to be held up and delivered quite late. He gets quite lazy once he hits the front. And he's gone up £6 for it. But I think, he's a lightly raced 8-year-old. He's improving. Won't have any issue with the ground. He's won it the course before as well. Expect patient, even more patient tactics, I think, will be the key here with Tom Cannon. I expect him to literally be delivered after the last here and try and pick things up. I said he's up to 148, but he's still unexposed. He's heading the right way. And obviously, Alan King's won this a couple of times in recent years with Zigger Boy. And I just think, he looks tailor-made for this. So, Canelo to land the knockout blow in this contest.
So Canelo, the one for Ed there. I like the.
I was seeing how long before you got that there.
I was already talking basically when I understood it. Canelo 5-1 to land the knockout blow. That's with Paddy Power. So Canelo, one for the team, and I think all of us are united in thinking that Captain Ord may be at 5-2, 1 to take on in the 3:15 at Donny. So that brings our Doncaster preview to a close. Hopefully that isn't the end of the of the previews that have any relevance and value, because now we're going to move on to Cheltenham. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, we're recording this at midday on Thursday. It looks like Cheltenham might not go ahead, but we're going to do our duty and preview the races anyway and keep everything crossed that it is safe to do so. So the first race we're going to preview at Cheltenham is the 150, the Paddy Power Millionaire Trophy Handicap Chase over just an extended 2.5 miles, where Midnight Shadow and Caribbean Boy are the joint 5-1 favourites ahead of Al Dancer at 6-1, Old Grangewood 8-1, Benatar 9-1, Mr. Whitaker and Happy Diva both 10-1, 12-1 ASO, as is Puerto Rico with Clan Legend 16-1. Eden de Hote 22-1. Now, Ed, Cheltenham might not be going ahead. We've done Donny, but I know Cheltenham is where your heart lies, and this is the stuff you really want to get into. So let's assume it's going ahead. We think, if it does do so, the ground will be testing, to put it mildly. Where are you looking here for the Paddy Power Millionaire Trophy?
Yeah, I'm going to give another chance to Caribbean Boy for Nicky Henderson and Daryl Jacob. This horse is lightly raced. That's the kind of key angle here that, I don't want to be disrespectful, but there's a lot of old exposed types now. Your Clan Legends 11, Puerto Rico, Old Grangewood are both 10-year-olds. ASO's 11, Happy Divas 10. The handicapper knows where he is with a lot of these horses. It's fair to say Caribbean Boy still has that could be anything tag, and he's only had the 4 chase starts for Nicky Henderson. Looked really smart in a grade 2 at Newbury on his penultimate start, where he swatted aside Fiddler on the Roof. All the talk after it was how Fiddler on the Roof perhaps didn't quite run his race, yet subsequently that form doesn't look too bad, does it? Because he went really close to next day's destination up at Warwick, who's now around 7-8-1 to win what was the RSA chase. So I think with hindsight, that form's pretty good. Now, obviously, the alarm bells with Caribbean Boy was last time out in Ascot when finishing last of 3 runners behind Itchy Feet and Dashel Drasher. Again, with hindsight, that form doesn't look too bad at all, does it? Dashel Drasher since come out and scooped a big pot at Ascot off a big weight. And I believe the horse was totally off colour. Daryl Jacobs said he knew it halfway, he was beaten, and a lot of the Nicky Henderson horses appear to run totally flat over that period. So I wouldn't be giving up on him at all. He absolutely seemed to appear to love heavy ground when he bolted up at Haydock back in February. So ground conditions wouldn't make me all that nervous as long as the horse is right. And you put a line through his run last time out. Nicky Henderson was saying after the Newbury run that the Ryanair is the plan. Obviously, I think they've kind of cooled those kind of pretensions, shall we say, a little bit on the basis of that run last time out. But if he wins this, then yes, he'll be lining up in that Grade 1 at March in 7 weeks' time. So I just like the unexposed angle, but I do love the way he jumps. I mean, he was impeccable in his jumping at Newbury, and even though he ran pretty flat at Ascot, you can't argue his jumping still held him in good stead. So he would be my play here. I just think he's the exciting one, the one that's still got the potential to progress against a lot of horses, which, let's face it, likes of ASO and Happy Diva, definitely got their conditions and will run their races. But as I said, they've got the handicapper knows exactly where they are with these horses, whereas Caribbean Boy stood off 154. There is a question mark. You could easily run to 160 here and be a little bit of a blot on the handicap mark, if you like. So, yeah, Caribbean Boy for Nicky Henderson for me. No great price, but I think he's the improver.
What price do you think Caribbean Boy would be if you did draw a line through that last run, if you took it out?
Oh, he'd be incredibly short, maybe about 7-4, something like that, 6-4. I know he's got quite a bit of weight on his back here, but as I said, this is the horse that he was going to make up into a Grade 1 performer. There's a lot of horses in here. They've not had their day, but they're handicapped accordingly. Caribbean Boy is still the big question mark. It could just be that the run at Newbury was kind of a little bit of a bolt out of the blue, and he's got a few issues which haven't been ironed out after his Ascot run last time out. But as I said, I like his exciting. I like his potential. I like his profile. He's an excellent jumper, and he's won on heavy. So Caribbean Boy for me, he's my selection.
Caribbean Boy for Ed, 5-1 with Paddy Power and Betfair Sportsbook. Andrew, Caribbean Boy, an unexposed type, as Ed says. Only 4 runs for Nicky Henderson, but plenty in there that we've seen lots of in the past. Midnight Shadow, Al Dance, Old Grangewood, Benatar, Mr. Whittaker. Some familiar names. Where are you coming down?
I'm a bit like it is. I think this race is just open. End of story. And I'm going to put one up at maybe the outside of the lot at the moment. I think Eden Dahoo of Dave Pipes. The yard's in very, very good form. It's only £2 out the handicap with the weights going up 3. He's got a bit of foot. He's got form on heavy ground, which is the key. This, by the sounds of it, if Cheltenham's on, it will be atrocious. 10 stone down the handicap. He won a novice hurdle at Chepstow, beat Mario de Pale off levels. That horse read 137 over hurdles. Eden Dahoo's got off a mark of 128. As I say, he's had a wind up first time as well. He's very much unexposed as a chaser. He finished 4th at Exeter last time out in a what I'd call a middle of the road handicap. But you get some funny results at this time of year, and the fact that the trainer is in Dave Pipes horses have been running pretty well all season, and recently at this time of year, I think he's had 5 winners in the last fortnight. You know that they'll be hard fit. And I do like their angle, wind up first time. And off a lightweight here, and what I agree with Ed, it's a wide open race where having a look through the likes of Benatar, Old Grangewood, I don't think they're absolute mud lovers. Happy Diva, as you mentioned, Ed, she's not getting any younger. Mr. Whittaker, I worry about the ground for him. ASO's got top weight. As I say, it's an open race, and right down at the bottom, only a 7-year-old. So there is untapped potential there. This might be one where Tom Skua could see him making plenty of use of Eden Dahoo and not hanging around in here and trying to get the others at it. So big price horse each way.
Eden Dahoo 22-1. That is with Unibet. Andrew, you have me at outside of the field and wind up, I must say. And knowing long shot Ted, the other man here, I reckon he might be having a £5 saver come off time. We're going to move on now to a cracking race, the 225, the Cotswold Chase. Might be some insight into the Gold Cup here with Santini, the 5-2 favourite, with Bristol Demai 11-4, Native River 9-2, St Calvados 11-2, Yala Enki 14-1, the conditional and Lakeview Lad both 16-1, York Hill 50-1. Fascinating race if it goes ahead. A slog in the mud at Cheltenham sounds to me like it's Santini's cup of tea, Andrew.
Do you know, I was scratching my head, I'll be honest, why Nicky Henderson doesn't want to run him on soft ground. I just think he's not a quick horse. He wants it. It's not Nicky's. I think it's more the fact it's not his style to run horses in very deep ground. And if he doesn't think, but this isn't a Nicky Henderson type of horse. He's slow. He's what I call a trucker's tavern, a Sir Rembrandt. This is his track. It won't happen very quickly. But you saw last year, had limited experience, made a bit of a mess of the second last, wasn't so clever at the third last, but still won well and beat Bristol de Mai. And Bristol de Mai, a horse that is 0 from 6 around Cheltenham. If this race was at Haydock, it'd be 2s on. End of story. But it's not. It's at Cheltenham. And even when the ground's soft, he's very much like a horse that I used to ride called the Listener, and Daryl Jacob used to ride him. He used to like a flat galloping track. He didn't like the undulations. Although he won at Cheltenham, he just didn't like the undulations. Bristol de Mai's in the same boat. He'll run his race. He's been placed in a Gold Cup. He's been placed in this race several times. But I always feel there will be something to beat him. And Santini, although Nicky's saying 50-50, I still think this is the race for him. He wants racing. Kempton was like, you knew what was going to happen round there. And he ran all right till leaving the back straight where he just got tapped for toe. So I think he's value at 9-4. I'll be perfectly frank with you.
5-2.
Triple be a little bit of a worry. Yalarenki, well, crikey. I haven't seen a horse tank down to the start of tank round the track after 2 weeks after a Welsh National last weekend, but it might be just asking a little bit much. If you're looking for a horse at a bit of a price each way, look no further than the conditional. He's 2 from 2 at Cheltenham. Yes, he only had 10-4 and 10-6 when he won at Cheltenham, but he does love the track. And, Bridgie, the giant bolster comes flashing through the memory, doesn't it? This, he's a knocking bet each way, the conditional, but the main bet will be Santini.
Yeah, 8 runners at the moment. You do worry that the race might still cut up a little bit, even if the rain does come, because, as we've often seen this winter or this month so far, if racing goes ahead, sometimes half the fields do come out. But 8 run at the moment, and the conditional is 16-1 with Paddy Power and Betfair Sportsbook. I mean, we haven't even discussed, Ed, Lakeview Lad yet. I mean, surely Lakeview Lad fans are there saying, excuse me. Like, look at what happened in our last run. We're 16-1 in an 8-runner race. We haven't got an each way shout.
Yeah, we actually trounced the King George with it, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, indeed. It was a little bit of a farcical race, that I suppose, is the proviso, if you want to take with Lakeview Lad. And on the balance of his form, that was a bit of a bolt out of the blue. And I just look at this race overall again. You've got Lakeview Lad's 11, Native Rivers 11, York Hills 11, Yalarenki's 11. There's, again, a lot of horses who are in the twilight of their careers, it has to be said. And Santini does look the percentage play, doesn't he, really?
Yeah.
He won this race last year. I totally agree with Andrew. I mean, the horse loves. You look at the horse's form figures on soft to heavy; they're much better than they are when it's good to soft. The horse it's got his ideal conditions, and it's Nicky Henderson's comments, of course, caused a lot of bit of confusion on social media, haven't they? In the sense that he said it's only 50-50. He doesn't really want to run the horse on heavy, yet he's declared him on ground where you're gonna, need a boat to get home on. So I don't quite know what's going on really. But I think he's the percentage play. If there was the joker in the pack and more the interesting horse to talk about for the fact of I admire what Connections is doing with him, it's St. Calvados, in the sense that he ran an absolute stormer in the King George, finishing 4th. His first start for 9 months. I believe he'd had a little bit of blood poisoning or something. And the Harry Whittington team have not had a great time of things over the last few months. That's been well documented. However, he ran an absolute stormer to finish 4th in the King George. Now, in the aftermath, the assumption, and pretty much everyone is saying, and myself, I think the percentage call is that he didn't get the trip in the King George because he was very keen. He ran quite free. He travelled with so much exuberance and then appeared to peter out in the closing stages. However, listen to Gavin Sheehan's comments afterwards. He was of the mindset that he's not too sure that wouldn't have happened over 2.5 anyway, given the fact it was his first run for 3/4 of a year. He would have tightened up a lot fitness-wise, and he was just fresh and keen, and he needed that run under his belt. So I like what Connections are doing here. I think in the back of their mind, they think he could be a Gold Cup horse. So they're going to run him over here, 200 yards shy of a Gold Cup trip in bottomless ground. If he doesn't get the trip, they've answered all their questions, which ultimately it is trials day. So it is kind of answering questions for them, isn't it? And if he doesn't get home here, they'll go for the Ryanair. If he jumps the last and comes up the hill, he'll be running in the Gold Cup. And if you're going to be really nerdy about it and look on official figures, he is getting £6 from the top weights here from Santini, and on official figures, he is the best horse in the race. If you adjust the figures for the weight he's getting from his rivals, so obviously the big question mark about him is his stamina. Will they try and ride him differently? He was obviously, because he was quite keen, he almost got himself to the front at Kempton and kind of pushed on. Will they try and conserve energy? If they go a bit slow, will they try and hold him up and use his turn of foot? So I think they're a little bit frustrated, really, because I think in an ideal world, if this was a good to soft Cotswold chase, you'd probably be getting a better representation of, what he actually could do over this trip on this stamina. But this is going to be absolutely bottomless ground. But I just think he's the interesting horse in terms of, as I said, on figures, he's officially the best horse in the race. He's getting weight from Santini, and be interested in the tactics, what they do with him, whether they try and hold him up and come late, or whether they just let him bowl along, and if he falls in a hole, he does. So.
I'd say they won't bowl along because you've got the likes of York Hill, Bristol Demise, and they all want to be up there. But I think I'd like to see them drop him out last and put him to sleep for a circuit and a half, because there is going to be a stamina test. But will they do that?
Well, that's what I was saying. If he's keen and pulls himself to the front, then they might not be able to do much about that. If you see what I'm saying.
Well, he definitely won't get the trip if he does that. That's one thing is for certain.
Yeah,
he might be the officially best figures, but at this trip, bearing in mind, I think it's an extra 130 yards, so it's pretty much the Gold Cup trip.
Yeah.
We should learn something about the Gold Cup here, whether it's certain horses, proving that they're not up to the trip, whether it's the winner shortening, being cut in half for the Gold Cup. I mean, a quick look at the Gold Cup prices. Santini is 10-1. St Calvados is 50-1. Bristol Demai is 40-1. Now, as you say, Bristol Demai has been placed, came third in the Gold Cup a couple of years ago. The form around Cheltenham isn't what it should be. But is there any justification here, Ed, that you've got a race at Cheltenham on soft ground over pretty much the Gold Cup trip? You've got two horses who are pretty much neck and neck in the betting in Santini and Bristol Demai. Yet you look at the Gold Cup prices, and Bristol Demai is 4 times the price. Yeah,
but we've touched upon Bristol Demai's, Haydock Demai, as he's known, isn't he? As the that's your answer, really. I don't need to say much more. I mean, there's one horse we're probably totally glossing over here, is the previous Cheltenham Gold Cup winner, Native River, who will have his ground, does gallop all day. Richard Johnson's on, and I just wonder, at the age of 11 now, we can all get a bit attached to these horses. Can he kind of roll back the years a little bit? He's had a couple of injuries in recent times. He ran well enough, it has to be said, at Aintree, to show the fires do still burn. But he's, can he still run to his best or run to a mark of 168 at the age of 11? I'm slightly sceptical, but yeah, I'm on balance. I think Santini's the most likely winner, but from a kind of a race interest, as Andrew said, I'd be really interested in how and what they do with St Calvados, whether they try and hold him up in last, or if he's too exuberant, they let him go on, or what happens with him, because he's definitely the interesting one in the pack, if you like. But yeah, Santini for me.
Santini 5-2 with Unibet and Sky Bet. St Calvados 11-2 across the board, but I don't think that's much of a tip there from Ed. More just one to look out for, and as I say, 50-1 for the big one in March. On then to the Ballymore Novices Hurdle, over 2.5 miles, where Bear Grylls is the 6-5 favourite. Annual Invictus and Wild About Oscar both 7-2. Optimised Prime is 8-1, and Took the Lot 25-1. Just 5 runners here. Ed, Bear Grylls, not really your kind of thing. 6-5 favs. One to get against, or
yeah, I've got to admit, got a race I'm sitting out. I thought Annual Invictus was interesting. He's become a bit of a win machine for Chris Gordon. Absolutely loves the mud. Richard Johnson's been booked, and I think will stay. So again, at the prices, Bear Grylls not one I'd be getting totally excited about. Optimised Prime, I'd be amazed if he lines up. Ben Pauling pretty much kind of said that they pulled him out of the Warwick race on the account of the ground being too soft. I presume he's just been declared in here in case 4 others become non-runners and he'll pick up the prize. But no, it's a trappy little race. But I'd be tentatively with Annual Invictus.
Annual Invictus there for Ed at 7-2. Andrew, anything for you?
I was just looking through Bear Grylls' pedigree. The dam's a full sister to Cracking Dawn. I used to ride for Robert Olner, and he was a real good-looking type. And I think Bear Grylls is the real deal. I'm just impressed with him. You could have put, after I saw him win his bumper, I think you could have put telephone numbers next to his name for the offers that were coming in. He's exciting. He's raw. He's raw. The potential that he's shown. He reminds me a bit of a French Holly in the fact that I'd love to see him go off the 2.5 at Cheltenham with a bit of juice in the ground. What he did to the field down at Exeter last time out, he just blew them apart. And obviously they've been wondering which race to head down, the 2-mile route or the 2.5. You know, the way he went through the line at Exeter last time out suggests to me that he's going to be even better over 2.5. You know, I just think that the ground last time out was pretty soft down at Exeter, and you know he's a thorough stayer. The trip won't be. I think he could blow this field apart. You might see him turn in here with the others, but I think when Matt Griffiths gives him a squeeze here, he will relish the hill, and he's an exciting prospect.
So positive words there for an exciting prospect in Bear Grylls for Andrew. 6-5 with Unibet and Skybet as it stands. On then to the last race we're going to be covering, which is the 3:35. It is the Cleve Hurdle, and Paisley Park is the 4-7 favourite ahead of Itchy Feet at 9-2. Main Fact 7-1. You know what I mean, Harry. 16-1. Ramsey's to tie. 25s. Decor Irlandais is 33-1. And Paisley Park 4-7. I mean, what can we say that hasn't already been said about Paisley Park? Great to see him getting back to winning ways. And we know, of course, some spectacular moments at this track in the past. Any chinks in the armour on Saturday?
I would be a little nervous, if I'm being honest. I've got to be honest, I wouldn't be at all shocked if they pull him out. To be honest, he's been pulled out on the heavy ground before. And I just think this is a horse he's had his heart problem. He's come back. It's brilliant to see him back, isn't it? I mean, he's become a real fan's favourite now, and his battles with Time Hill becoming really exciting. And of course, we're going to have the rematch, all being well, at the festival. Connections to Time Hill decided to go straight to the stairs, and I just wonder, as I say, it's only 6.5 weeks to the Stayers Hurdle. The last thing they want in really deep ground is an absolute war here. And he's got to give weight to the field again here. Officially £10 better than Itchy Feet, but he's got to concede £6 to him. And I just think if the ground is really, really testing, as I said, they pulled him out at Ascot last season when the ground got really deep, whether they might just think, let's just bubble wrap him for the big one, because you don't want to leave your race behind in this contest, because he's the type of horse that when he runs, the kitchen sink gets left on the race course, doesn't he? He's not the type of horse which just goes around on the bridle and does his thing. He's always seems to be in a hard battle, and I think with those types of horses, there's only so often you can go back to the well with them. So look, he's the best horse in the race. We know that. Official figures say that, but he has got to give weight some rivals. And Itchy Feet is definitely one that interests me here for Ollie Murphy and Gavin Shee. And this horse has been absolutely crying out to come back over hurdles, which is now what is happening, and B, has been crying out for 3 miles and soft ground. It's a horse of a lot of ability, over 2.5 in fences. He just keeps staying on. He did that at Ascot on the last 2 occasions, and ground won't be an issue here. It was pretty deep the day he won the City Isles at Sandown. He looked really smart on that occasion. I just think he could really benefit from a drop back over hurdles. As I said, he's getting £6 from Paisley Park. He's got his ground, and listening to Ollie Murphy, they're going to weigh up whether they have a crack at the Stayers Hurdle on the back of this, depending on how close they get to Paisley Park in receipt of weight. So Paisley Park is the best horse in the race, 4-7, no kind of price. It's probably, in truth, a race to watch. But I'd just be a little bit nervous about Paisley Park, and it would not shock me if Emma Laval did pull the horse out, as I say, 6 weeks before the festival, given that this could turn into a real war of attrition, which is probably the last thing that horse needs at this stage of the season. So, Itchy Feet for me, of course, a minor upset, shall we say.
Itchy Feet 9-2 at the moment, will be favourite if Paisley Park does come out. Andrew?
Well, I think she'll run him, because the only reason she pulled him out at Ascot that time was because it was false ground. She wasn't up, down the hill. She was worried it was false ground conditions more than anything else. So I would never worry about him really regarding the ground. Looking through the race, I just can't see them going flat to the pan here from word go. Ramis Detaya, he ran in, he's a likely handy horse, but he did run in the Welsh National last time out, which was only a fortnight ago. And he's the class horse. You know what I mean, Harry? Oh, the place would erupt. There might not be anybody at Cheltenham, but if he happened to go and win, the place would erupt. And he's 13, but God, he's an absolute warrior. Main fact, he's been busier than I have in the last 6 months. Whether it's flat or jumping, he just, the market was completely against him at Ascot, wasn't it, Ed?
Yeah.
And for a horse that had been in such good form, it didn't happen for him. And whether he's just gone completely over the top, he didn't travel, he didn't really jump, and he didn't look interested, to be perfectly honest, last time. Itchy Feet's the one, and the form behind Dash or Drasher, although he didn't jump, was enhanced. And as Ed said, very interesting that he's coming back. But Paisley Park, the way he went through the gears at Ascot, after having a trouble passage from turning in, if he'd had a clear run turning in, he'd have won a bit easier, and Richard Johnson wouldn't have been as annoyed with himself as he was, because I'm sure crossing the line he thought he'd been mugged, which he was. But if Aidan Coleman hadn't won, God, would he have been bad to live with? Because he did, he just got trapped in a pocket and came with the run. But Paisley Park, he's back to his best. I will forgive any horse. Any horse can have a poor run, which he had at Cheltenham. It didn't work out for him. He's 2's on. He's probably not backable at it, but he's won it the last 2 years, so not going to go against him.
Paisley Park 4-7, hard to oppose for Andrew, but yeah, kind words for Itchy Feet from both of our expert guests, and that brings us to a close on the podcast and the video. Thank you very much to both Andrew and Ed for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on any podcast platform. We'll be there, all of them there, the Oddschecker Betting Show, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for plenty more betting preview content around sports and lots of other things too. Check out Studs Up, the new Oddschecker and Sky Bet podcast with Charlie Austin and Ollie Bell being released. I think they're recording it this afternoon, so keep your eyes out for that. Do download the Oddschecker app as well for the best prices, the best bookie offers, the free bets, and plenty more, including the very best tipsters, such as Andy Holding, who hopefully we'll have back on next week as well. Please do enjoy the racing. There's an inspection tomorrow at 2 o'clock at Cheltenham. Fingers crossed it's good news. And please do gamble responsibly.